Ladies and gentlemen, learning is one of the most powerful tools for personal and professional growth. In today's fast-paced world, the ability to acquire new knowledge and skills quickly is essential for success. However, many people struggle with slow learning, poor retention, and difficulty applying what they have learned. The good news is that with the right approach, anyone can accelerate their learning process and master new subjects with greater efficiency. Today, I will share 3 simple steps and 6 key insights from Dr. Jordan Peterson that will help you learn 10 times faster. These techniques are not just theoretical concepts, they are backed by research in psychology and neuroscience, making them practical and effective for anyone eager to enhance their learning capabilities. Whether you are a student, a professional, or someone passionate about continuous growth, mastering these strategies will transform the way you absorb, retain, and apply knowledge. So, if you are ready to unlock your full learning potential, let us explore these powerful methods that will set you on the path to success. Learning is a skill that can be improved with the right strategies. Most people struggle to retain information and apply it effectively because they approach learning inefficiently. They read passively, highlight notes without thinking, and expect knowledge to stick without reinforcement. However, by following 3 simple steps and applying 6 key insights from Dr. Jordan Peterson, anyone can accelerate their learning speed by 10 times. One of the primary reasons people struggle to learn quickly is a lack of deep engagement with the material. Many students and professionals rely on passive learning techniques such as rereading textbooks, watching lectures, or taking notes without true comprehension. This approach leads to weak memory retention and a slow learning process. Instead, deep engagement through active recall and spaced repetition can significantly improve how quickly and effectively you absorb information. Active recall involves testing yourself repeatedly rather than simply reviewing the material. For example, if you're learning a new language, instead of just reading vocabulary words, cover the definitions and try to recall them from memory. The process of struggling to remember strengthens neural connections, making it easier to retain information long term. Similarly, spaced repetition helps reinforce learning by reviewing information at strategic intervals. Research shows that revisiting material after increasing time gaps, such as a day, a week, and a month, helps embed knowledge more deeply in the brain. Instead of cramming information in one sitting, spreading learning over time leads to better retention and recall. Another critical aspect of focused learning is eliminating distractions. Studies reveal that multitasking reduces cognitive performance. In today's digital world, notifications, social media, and background noise constantly pull attention away from meaningful work. To learn faster, it's essential to dedicate uninterrupted time to studying, practicing, and absorbing new information. Teaching is one of the most effective ways to reinforce knowledge. If you can explain a complex concept in simple terms, it means you understand it well. This method, sometimes referred to as the Feynman Technique, involves breaking down ideas and teaching them as if speaking to a child. When you struggle to simplify a concept, it highlights gaps in your understanding. Teaching can take many forms, including discussing topics with peers, writing summaries, or creating tutorials. Even speaking aloud to yourself, as if you were explaining the material to someone else, can significantly improve comprehension. The act of teaching forces the brain to organize information more effectively and solidify it into long-term memory. The final step to learning faster is applying knowledge immediately. Many people spend too much time gathering information but fail to put it into practice. This leads to the illusion of learning without true mastery. Real learning happens when knowledge is used in a practical context. For instance, if you're learning programming, don't just watch tutorials. Start coding immediately. If you're studying psychology, try analyzing real-life situations using the theories you learn. The more you engage with material through real-world application, the stronger your understanding becomes. Application not only deepens comprehension, but also builds confidence in using newly acquired skills. Jordan Peterson emphasizes the importance of precise goals when it comes to learning. Many people have vague ambitions, which leads to lack of direction and motivation. Setting clear, specific learning objectives ensures steady progress. Instead of saying, I want to be better at public speaking, a more precise goal would be, I will practice delivering a 5-minute speech every day for the next month. Specific goals provide measurable outcomes and keep you accountable. Another fundamental aspect of learning, according to Peterson, is confronting what you don't know. Many learners avoid difficult concepts because they feel uncomfortable struggling with them. However, true growth happens when you challenge your weaknesses. When you acknowledge gaps in knowledge and actively work to fill them, your learning accelerates. Instead of skipping hard topics, embrace them as opportunities to grow. When learning is approached with a structured and disciplined mindset, the process becomes more effective and rewarding. Engaging deeply with the material ensures that knowledge is retained for longer periods. Active recall and spaced repetition are two of the most powerful techniques to improve memory and understanding. Instead of passively reading or watching content, testing oneself repeatedly strengthens neural pathways and increases retention. Applying this method consistently leads to a more profound grasp of any subject. Another crucial aspect of deep engagement is minimizing distractions. In the modern digital age, attention spans are constantly under attack. Social media notifications, background noise, and unnecessary multitasking reduce cognitive efficiency. To learn faster, it is essential to create an environment conducive to concentration. Studying in a quiet space using the Pomodoro technique to maintain focus and eliminating unnecessary interruptions can significantly boost learning speed. Teaching what has been learned is another critical step in mastering new information. The Feynman Technique, which involves breaking down complex topics into simpler explanations, is a powerful tool. By explaining concepts as if to a beginner, gaps in knowledge become more apparent, allowing for targeted improvement. Teaching does not necessarily require an audience. Even speaking aloud or writing summaries forces the brain to organize information effectively. This process strengthens understanding and enhances recall, making it easier to retrieve information when needed. Application of knowledge is equally important. Many people spend excessive time acquiring theoretical knowledge without practical implementation. However, without real-world application, information remains abstract and difficult to retain. The best way to internalize a concept is to use it in a relevant context. Whether learning a new language, coding, or a musical instrument, consistent application accelerates progress. Engaging with real-world scenarios not only solidifies understanding, but also builds confidence in using newly acquired skills. Jordan Peterson highlights the significance of precise goal setting in learning. Vague objectives lead to unstructured efforts and minimal progress. By setting specific, measurable, and time-bound goals, learners create a roadmap that ensures steady improvement. For example, instead of saying, I want to get better at writing, setting a goal like, I will write 500 words daily for the next month provides clear direction. Breaking down learning into manageable steps makes the process less overwhelming and more achievable. Another fundamental principle is confronting areas of weakness. Many learners avoid difficult subjects because they feel discouraged by their struggles. However, true progress comes from addressing weaknesses head-on. When a challenging topic is avoided, it remains a barrier to deeper understanding. Peterson emphasizes that struggling with difficult concepts is an essential part of the learning process. Facing these challenges instead of ignoring them leads to accelerated learning and intellectual growth. Honest self-assessment is another key factor. Many individuals deceive themselves about their level of understanding, assuming they have mastered something when they have not. This false confidence hinders progress and leads to poor performance when tested. To overcome this, Peterson advises learners to assess themselves truthfully, keeping track of progress, testing knowledge regularly, and identifying gaps for improvement fosters a continuous learning mindset. Structuring knowledge properly is also crucial for effective learning. The brain organizes information hierarchically, meaning foundational concepts must be mastered before moving on to more complex topics. Peterson compares this to building a house. Without a strong foundation, the structure collapses. For example, in mathematics, understanding arithmetic is necessary before tackling algebra, and algebra must be mastered before moving on to calculus. When learning is approached in a structured manner, retention improves and complex topics become easier to grasp. Taking responsibility for one's education is another vital principle. Many individuals blame external factors such as poor teaching, lack of time, or difficult material for their struggles. However, Peterson emphasizes that true learners take full responsibility for their growth. They actively seek out resources, refine their study techniques, and make adjustments when necessary. Learning is a personal endeavor, and those who take charge of their education experience the fastest and most significant improvements. Peterson also stresses the importance of pursuing meaningful learning rather than simply opting for what is easy. Many people look for shortcuts or quick fixes, but deep and lasting knowledge requires effort and commitment. Choosing to engage with subjects that challenge and inspire ensures long-term motivation. When learning is meaningful, it becomes an exciting journey rather than a tedious task. The process itself becomes rewarding, leading to greater intellectual fulfillment and personal growth. Another key factor in learning is developing a strong work ethic. Peterson often discusses the importance of discipline and consistency in achieving mastery. Talent alone is not enough. Regular, focused practice is what separates experts from amateurs. Many people overestimate what they can achieve in a short time, but underestimate what they can accomplish through consistent effort over months or years. Developing a habit of daily learning, even if only for a short period, compounds over time and leads to exceptional results. When learning is approached with the right mindset and techniques, it becomes not only faster, but also more effective. One of the biggest barriers to rapid learning is the failure to actively engage with the material. Too often, people rely on passive methods such as simply reading, watching, or listening without interacting with the information. However, true mastery requires the brain to work harder, retrieving and applying what has been learned. This is why active recall and spaced repetition are so crucial. Active recall involves testing oneself repeatedly instead of just reviewing material. For example, rather than simply rereading a book, one should try to summarize the key ideas from memory. By forcing the brain to retrieve information, neural connections are strengthened, making recall easier in the future. Spaced repetition further enhances this process by strategically reviewing the material at increasing intervals, reinforcing memory without the need for constant repetition. Instead of cramming for an exam or trying to memorize something all at once, spreading learning out over time ensures that knowledge is retained more effectively. Another essential factor in accelerated learning is eliminating distractions. The modern world is filled with constant interruptions, from social media notifications to unnecessary background noise. Studies show that multitasking reduces cognitive performance and makes it harder to focus on complex information. To maximize learning speed, it is crucial to create an environment that supports deep focus. This might mean studying in a quiet location, using tools like the Pomodoro technique to maintain concentration, or simply turning off notifications during study sessions. By maintaining undisturbed periods of intense focus, learning becomes much more efficient. Teaching is another powerful tool for mastering new information quickly. If a person can explain a concept in simple terms, they truly understand it. This is the basis of the Feynman Technique, which involves breaking down complex topics and teaching them as if to someone unfamiliar with the subject. Teaching forces the brain to organize information logically, identify gaps in understanding, and reinforce key concepts. Whether teaching a peer, writing about a topic, or even explaining it out loud to oneself, this process solidifies knowledge and makes recall easier. Applying what has been learned in a real-world context is also essential for fast learning. Many individuals spend hours acquiring theoretical knowledge but fail to put it into practice. Without application, knowledge remains abstract and is quickly forgotten. Real-world implementation transforms learning from a passive activity into an active skill. For instance, those learning a new language should not just memorize vocabulary, but should also engage in conversations. Similarly, someone studying coding should write actual programs instead of just reading about syntax. By using knowledge in meaningful ways, learning becomes more concrete and effective. Jordan Peterson highlights the importance of setting clear and precise goals when it comes to learning. Many people fail to make progress because their objectives are too vague. Instead of saying, I want to be better at writing, setting a goal like, I will write 500 words every day for a month provides structure and accountability. Specific goals help track progress and provide motivation by breaking large tasks into manageable steps. When learning is goal-oriented, the process becomes more efficient and improvements become more measurable. Another key to accelerated learning is confronting weaknesses directly. Many people avoid difficult topics because they feel discouraged when they struggle. However, Peterson emphasizes that growth occurs through challenges. When an individual actively works through complex subjects instead of avoiding them, the brain adapts and builds stronger connections. Instead of seeing difficulty as a sign of failure, it should be viewed as an opportunity for growth. Facing these challenges head-on accelerates learning by forcing deeper cognitive engagement. Honest self-assessment is critical for improving learning efficiency. Many people overestimate their level of understanding, assuming they have mastered a subject when they have not. This false confidence leads to gaps in knowledge that only become apparent when tested. Peterson advises individuals to be brutally honest about what they know and where they need to improve. Regular self-testing, tracking progress, and actively seeking feedback ensure that learning remains productive and targeted. Without an accurate understanding of strengths and weaknesses, efforts to improve may be misdirected. Proper structuring of knowledge is another essential element of rapid learning. The brain works best when information is organized in a clear hierarchy. Peterson compares this to constructing a building. Without a strong foundation, the entire structure collapses. This means that foundational principles must be fully understood before moving on to more complex topics. For example, in mathematics, mastering arithmetic before tackling algebra and algebra before calculus ensures a solid framework for future learning. When knowledge is structured correctly, new information is easier to absorb and complex subjects become more manageable. The ability to learn efficiently is not just about intelligence or talent. It is about using the right techniques and strategies. One of the biggest obstacles to fast learning is passive engagement with information. Many people read books, watch videos, or take notes without actively testing their knowledge. However, true learning happens when the brain is forced to recall and apply information, making active recall one of the most powerful tools for faster learning. Active recall involves retrieving information from memory rather than simply reviewing it. For example, after reading a chapter in a book, instead of rereading it, one should close the book and try to summarize the main points from memory. This process strengthens neural connections, making it easier to remember the information later. The more frequently the brain is forced to retrieve knowledge, the stronger and more accessible that knowledge becomes. Spaced repetition is another essential technique for improving memory retention. Instead of cramming all at once, reviewing information at strategic intervals allows knowledge to be stored in long-term memory. Research shows that reviewing material after increasing time gaps, such as after 1 day, then 3 days, then a week, leads to better retention than studying intensively in a single session. This approach prevents the forgetting curve and ensures that knowledge remains accessible when needed. Another critical aspect of learning faster is eliminating distractions. The modern world is filled with interruptions, from social media notifications to background noise, making it difficult to concentrate. Studies show that multitasking reduces cognitive performance and weakens focus. To optimize learning, it is important to create an environment that minimizes distractions. Turning off notifications, setting specific study times, and using the Pomodoro technique, working in focused intervals with short breaks, can significantly enhance concentration and efficiency. Teaching what has been learned is one of the most effective ways to solidify knowledge. If a person can explain a concept in simple terms, it indicates a deep understanding of the subject. The Feynman Technique named after physicist Richard Feynman, involves breaking down complex topics and teaching them as if to a beginner. This process forces the brain to organize information more effectively and identify areas that need further clarification. Teaching can take various forms, such as discussing topics with peers, writing about them, or even explaining them aloud to oneself. Applying knowledge in real-world scenarios accelerates learning by reinforcing concepts through experience. Many learners make the mistake of consuming information without actively using it. However, skills develop best through application. For example, learning a new language requires speaking and writing rather than just memorizing vocabulary. Similarly, coding becomes more intuitive when one writes actual programs instead of merely watching tutorials. By putting knowledge into practice, learning becomes faster and more effective. Setting clear and specific learning goals ensures steady progress. Many people struggle to improve because their objectives are vague. Instead of saying, I want to be better at public speaking, setting a goal like, I will practice delivering a 5-minute speech every day for a month provides direction and accountability. Well-defined goals break down the learning process into manageable steps, making progress measurable and motivation stronger. By applying these principles, active recall, spaced repetition, eliminating distractions, teaching, applying knowledge, and setting goals, anyone can dramatically increase their learning speed. These strategies not only make learning more effective, but also more enjoyable and rewarding.